Hello friends, welcome to our story. At exactly 3 in the morning, my husband's phone started ringing. The sound pierced through the darkness of our bedroom like a knife. I reached over to silence it, annoyed that someone would call at such an hour. But when I saw the name on the screen, my blood ran cold. It just said office. At 3 in the morning, I answered it, and the voice that came through changed my life forever. Tell my husband to come to the phone. Not can I speak to Michael? Not is this Mrs. Harrison? Just a cold, confident demand. Tell my husband to come to the phone. My name is Jennifer Harrison, and this is the story of how one phone call at 3 in the morning exposed a web of lies so elaborate, so carefully constructed, that it took me months to unravel it completely. And when I finally saw the truth, I made sure everyone involved paid for what they'd done. Before we continue with this story, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Are you in New York, London, maybe Sydney or Dubai? We love hearing from our viewers all around the world. Let me take you back to the beginning, because understanding how I ended up answering that call requires understanding how I ended up in a marriage that was built on lies from the very start. I met Michael Harrison 7 years ago at a corporate conference in Chicago. I was 26, working as a junior marketing executive, attending my first big industry event. Michael was 32, confident, successful, the regional director for a major pharmaceutical company. When he approached me at the networking mixer, I was flattered that someone so accomplished was interested in talking to me. He was charming in that effortless way some men have. He asked intelligent questions about my work, made me laugh, and by the end of the evening, he'd gotten my number. We started dating long distance since he was based in Boston and I was in Philadelphia, but he made the effort. Flowers delivered to my office. Surprise weekend visits. Long phone calls every night. After 6 months, he asked me to move to Boston with him. It was a big decision, leaving my job and my city for a relationship, but Michael made it feel right. He helped me find a position at a Boston marketing firm. He helped me apartment hunt, though I insisted on getting my own place. I wasn't ready to move in together yet. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. It was romantic. A weekend trip to Martha's Vineyard, down on one knee at sunset with a beautiful diamond ring. I said yes without hesitation. I loved him, trusted him completely, believed we were building a future together. The wedding was small but elegant. Michael's family was there, his parents and his younger sister. My parents flew in from Ohio, along with my brother and a handful of close friends. It was perfect. Everything I'd dreamed of. After the wedding, I moved into Michael's house, a beautiful colonial in a nice suburb about 30 minutes outside Boston. He'd bought it 2 years before we met, he told me, an investment in his future. The house was big, 4 bedrooms, which Michael said was perfect for the family we'd have someday. For the first year of marriage, everything seemed fine. Michael worked long hours, often leaving before I woke up and coming home after dinner. He traveled frequently for work, sometimes gone for days at a time for conferences or client meetings. But he was attentive when he was home, and he called me every night when he traveled. I kept my job at the marketing firm, enjoying my career and my independence. We settled into a comfortable routine. Weekday evenings were quiet, just the 2 of us. Weekends were for errands, dinners with friends, and occasional trips. But looking back now, I realized there were signs. Small things that didn't quite add up, things I dismissed because I trusted my husband. Like how he never wanted me to visit his office. When I suggested dropping by for lunch one day, he got uncomfortable, said his boss was strict about unauthorized visitors, that it would look unprofessional. I didn't push it. Or how his work phone was always on silent, how he'd step into another room to take certain calls. Confidential client information, he'd explain. HIPAA regulations, you know how it is in pharmaceuticals. I believed him. Or how he traveled so much, but always to cities I'd never heard of anyone having pharmaceutical conferences in. Small towns in the Midwest, random suburban areas. When I asked about it, he'd explain about regional sales territories and specialized markets. It sounded reasonable enough. The real warning sign, the one I almost saw but didn't, was his schedule. Michael worked Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, like clockwork. He was never home late on weekdays, never missed dinner. But he traveled every other weekend, Friday morning through Sunday evening, regular as clockwork. Every other weekend, gone. Regional meetings, he'd say. Unfortunately scheduled on weekends to accommodate everyone's schedule. I thought it was annoying that his company did that, But Michael said it was just part of the job at his level. If you're starting to see where this is going, hit that subscribe button. This story is about to take a turn that shocked everyone who knew us. What I didn't know was that Michael wasn't traveling for work those weekends. He was traveling to his other wife. To his other life. The life he'd had for 3 years before he even met me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about the phone call. It was a Tuesday night, or rather, Wednesday morning at 3 a.m. Michael was home, sleeping beside me. He'd been home all week, no travel scheduled. We'd had a normal evening, dinner, television, bed by 11. When his phone started ringing at 3 a.m., I was immediately worried. A call at that hour usually means an emergency. I reached for his phone on his nightstand, saw office on the caller ID, and answered it quickly before it could wake Michael. "Hello?" I whispered, trying not to disturb him. "Tell my husband to come to the phone." The woman's voice was sharp, angry, and completely confident. I froze. "My husband? I think you have the wrong number," I said quietly, glancing at Michael, who was still sleeping. "No, I don't. Tell Michael to get on the phone. Now." She knew his name. This woman, calling at 3 in the morning, knew Michael's name and was calling him her husband. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice still low but my heart starting to pound. "I'm his wife, and I want to talk to my husband right now." The world tilted. His wife. This woman was claiming to be Michael's wife. "I'm his wife," I said, my voice shaking. "Who are you?" There was a pause. Then, "What did you just say?" "I'm Michael Harrison's wife. We've been married for 3 years. Who are you?" "I'm Claire Harrison," the woman said slowly, and I could hear the dawning horror in her voice. "And I've been married to Michael Harrison for 6 years. I sat up in bed. The phone clutched to my ear. This couldn't be real. This had to be a mistake, a wrong number, a crazy person. "That's not possible," I said. "You're lying or confused. Michael is my husband. He's sleeping right here beside me." "He's what?" Her voice rose. "He's there? Right now? At 3 in the morning on a Wednesday?" "Yes, we're in bed. At our house. Where else would he be?" "He's supposed to be at our house," Claire said, her voice breaking. "In Connecticut. With me and our kids. The word hit me like a physical blow. "You have kids?" I whispered. 2. Emily is 4 and Noah is 2. Michael is their father. I looked at the man sleeping peacefully beside me. My husband of 3 years. The man I loved and trusted. Could this possibly be true? "I don't believe you," I said, but my voice was weak. "I have a better idea," Claire said, her voice hardening with anger. "Why don't you wake him up? Put me on speaker. Let's all talk about this together." My hand was shaking as I reached over and shook Michael's shoulder. Michael, wake up." He stirred, groggy. "What? What's wrong?" "There's someone on the phone for you," I said, my voice strange to my own ears. "She says she's your wife." Michael's eyes snapped open. In the dim light from the phone screen, I watched his face go from confusion to recognition to absolute terror in the space of 2 seconds. That look told me everything I needed to know. This woman on the phone was telling the truth. "Jennifer, I can explain," he started, but I cut him off by putting the phone on speaker. "Hello, Michael," Claire's voice filled the room. "I think it's time we all had a conversation." The next hour was the most surreal of my entire life. Claire and I, 2 women who had never met, both married to the same man, sat on opposite ends of a phone call and pieced together the truth while Michael sat between us, literally and figuratively, his lies collapsing around him. Claire lived in Stamford, Connecticut, about 2.5 hours from Boston. She and Michael had been married for 6 years, together for 8. They had 2 children, Emily and Noah. Michael worked in pharmaceutical sales, she said, the same job he'd told me about. But his territory was Connecticut and Westchester County, not Boston. He'd been home with Claire every Monday through Friday. Every weekend, he traveled for work. But those weren't work trips. Those were trips to me, to his second wife, his second life in Boston. The weekends I thought Michael was traveling for regional meetings, he was actually home with Claire and their children. The weekends he was with me in Boston, Claire thought he was on business trips. "He's been living 2 completely separate lives," Claire said, and I could hear she was crying. "Every other weekend, he'd kiss the kids goodbye, tell me he loved me, and leave for his business trip. He was going to you." Let us know in the comments if you've ever discovered someone was living a double life. The betrayal cuts deeper than almost anything else. How did you even manage this? I finally asked him, anger starting to cut through my shock. How did you keep 2 wives, 2 lives, completely separate for 3 years? Michael looked up, his face pale. I never meant for it to happen this way. Answer the question, Claire snapped through the phone. I met Jennifer at a conference, Michael said quietly. I was already married to you, Claire, but I was traveling so much for work, and Jennifer was exciting, new, and it just happened. I never meant to marry her. I meant to end it. But then she wanted more, and I didn't know how to stop without losing her. So you married her, Claire said, her voice dripping with contempt. You committed bigamy because you didn't want to break up with your girlfriend. That's what this is? I said, the legal term suddenly making it real. Bigamy? Our marriage isn't even legal? Michael flinched. Technically, no. My marriage to Claire is legal. Our ceremony was just a ceremony. It's not filed anywhere. The bottom dropped out of my world. I wasn't even legally married. For 3 years, I'd been living with a man, calling him my husband, planning a future with him, and none of it was real. None of it was legal. The house, I said suddenly. Is this even your house? Michael hesitated. It's in both our names. Mine and Claire's. I transferred your name onto the deed as well when we got married. I couldn't have you there without at least giving you that. So generous, I said bitterly. You committed fraud and bigamy, but at least you put my name on a house deed. Claire's voice came through the phone, sharp and furious. Our house? Michael, did you put another woman's name on our house? Without telling me? I had to, Michael said weakly. She would have gotten suspicious otherwise. I want a divorce, Claire said flatly. Immediately. And I want full custody of the children. And I'm going to make sure you go to prison for bigamy and fraud. I want everything too, I added. Every cent you have, Michael. You're going to pay for this. Michael looked between us, or rather, looked at me while Claire's voice came through the phone. Please, he said. Please, let me explain everything. I know I messed up, but I love both of you. You don't get to say that, Claire said. You don't get to claim you love us after doing this. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't live a double life. Love doesn't make someone think they're in a real marriage when they're not. She was right. Everything Michael had said, every promise he'd made, every moment we'd shared, all of it was contaminated by lies. Claire, I said, and it felt strange to use her name, to speak directly to this woman who was somehow both a stranger and the person who understood my situation better than anyone else could. We should meet, not now, but soon. We need to figure out what to do. Agreed, Claire said. Michael, get out. Get out of Jennifer's bed, get out of her house, and find somewhere else to sleep tonight. Actually, find somewhere else to live permanently. Claire, please, Michael started, but she cut him off. I'm hanging up now. Jennifer, my number will be in his phone under office. Call me tomorrow. We have a lot to discuss. The line went dead. I looked at Michael, this man I'd loved and trusted, and felt nothing but cold fury. Get out, I said. Jennifer, let me explain. I know this looks bad, but... Looks bad? I stood up from the bed. You have another wife. You have children I didn't know existed. You committed bigamy. You lied to me every single day for 3 years. Get out of this house before I call the police. This is my house too, Michael said. But there was no conviction in his voice. Then I'll leave, I said, grabbing my phone and my keys. I'm going to a hotel. Don't be here when I come back tomorrow. I drove to the nearest hotel, checked in at 4 in the morning looking like someone in shock, because that's exactly what I was, and sat in that anonymous room until the sun came up. Then I called my brother Jennifer. His voice was groggy. What's wrong? It's 6 a.m. Michael has another wife, I said. And saying it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. He's been married to her for 6 years. They have 2 kids. I'm not even legally married. It was all fake. My brother was silent for a long moment. Then, I'm getting in the car right now. Where are you? He arrived 3 hours later, having driven straight from New York. By then, I'd called Claire. We'd talked for over an hour, comparing our lives, our stories, Michael's lies. The picture that emerged was of a man who had somehow, impossibly, maintained 2 completely separate existences. Claire worked as a nurse, mostly night shifts, which is why she hadn't noticed Michael was gone every weeknight. She thought he was home sleeping while she worked. Michael would leave for work each morning, drive to Boston, live his life with me, then drive back to Connecticut early each morning to be there when Claire got home from her shift. I showed her photos of my wedding to Michael 3 years ago. A smaller ceremony, but I'd thought it was just as real. Except it wasn't. It was all theater, a performance Michael put on to keep me from leaving him. He's not even sorry, Claire said bitterly. He called me yesterday trying to explain, trying to make excuses. He actually said he did it because he loved us both so much he couldn't choose. That's not love, I said. That's selfishness. He wanted 2 lives, 2 wives, so he just took them without caring about the consequences. We need to make sure he faces real consequences, Claire said, her eyes hard. Legal consequences. We hired a lawyer together. Actually, Claire hired the lawyer since she was the legal wife, but I was part of every conversation, every decision. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Moore, was fascinated by the case. Bigamy is a crime in Massachusetts and Connecticut, Patricia explained. The fact that Michael maintained 2 households, 2 relationships, filed fraudulent marriage documents, that's serious. He could face prison time. Good, Claire and I said at the same time. But it got worse. As Patricia dug into Michael's financials, we discovered more lies. Michael had been using credit cards in both Claire's name and mine, running up debts. He'd taken out loans using the house as collateral without telling Claire. He'd cleaned out a college fund Claire had been building for the kids to help finance his double life. The man we'd both loved was not just a bigamist. He was a fraud and a thief. How did we not see it? I asked Claire one evening. We'd started talking regularly, these strange phone calls where we'd share our anger and pain with the only other person who could understand. He was good at compartmentalizing, Claire said, and we trusted him. That's not our fault. Trust is what you're supposed to have in a marriage. But we should have seen signs. Maybe, Claire admitted, but he's been doing this his whole life. Patricia found records. Before me, Michael was engaged to another woman. He broke it off suddenly, no explanation. I wonder if he had someone else then too. Michael Harrison wasn't just a man who made a mistake. He was a serial liar, someone for whom deception was almost pathological. When the criminal charges were filed, Michael tried to cut a deal. He'd plead guilty to bigamy and fraud if they reduced his sentence. But Patricia was ruthless. No deals, she said. He deserves everything he gets. The divorce proceedings were complicated by the fact that there had to be 2 divorces, sort of. Claire's marriage to Michael was dissolved legally. Mine was annulled since it had never been legal in the first place. But the financial assets had to be divided, and since I was on the deed to the house, I was entitled to my share. Michael fought it. Claimed I shouldn't get anything since the marriage wasn't real. The judge disagreed. Mr. Harrison deliberately created this situation through fraud and deception. Mrs. Jennifer Harrison entered into this arrangement in good faith, believing herself to be legally married. She is entitled to compensation for the fraud perpetrated against her. I got 1/3 of everything. Claire got 1/3. Michael got 1/3, though most of his share would go to paying legal fees and restitution. The house had to be sold. Claire and I stood together at the closing, watching the house that had been the setting for so many lies change hands to a new family. We split the proceeds, money that would help us both start over. Michael's trial was public and ugly. The media loved the story. Successful businessman with 2 wives, 2 lives, finally caught. Our pictures were in the news, though we both refused interviews. Michael pleaded guilty to avoid a longer trial. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison for bigamy, fraud, and identity theft. He'd also face supervised probation after release and have to pay restitution to both Claire and me. As they led him away in handcuffs, Michael looked at me one last time. I don't know what he was hoping to see. Forgiveness? Sadness? But all I felt was relief that it was over. Claire and I stayed in touch. Not as close friends exactly. How could we be when we were forever connected by such betrayal? But we had a bond, an understanding. We'd text occasionally, updating each other on our lives. Claire focused on her kids, making sure Emily and Noah understood that their father's mistakes weren't their fault. She started dating again after a year, carefully this time, with her eyes wide open. I moved to a new city, took a new job, started over completely. For a while, I swore off relationships entirely. How could I trust anyone after Michael? How could I believe anything anyone said? But slowly, with therapy and time, I started to heal. I learned that Michael's betrayal was about his flaws, not mine. I wasn't stupid or naive for trusting my husband. I was a normal person who'd been deliberately deceived by someone very skilled at lying. 2 years after that 3 a.m. phone call, I started dating again. I met someone, a kind man named David, who was patient with my trust issues and understood why I needed to take things slowly. We've been together for a year now, and it's different from what I had with Michael. It's real, built on actual honesty and trust. When David travels for work, he video calls me from his hotel. When he's late, he texts. He gave me all his passwords, not because I asked, but because he wanted me to know he had nothing to hide. That's what real love looks like. Not the carefully constructed lie Michael created, but genuine openness. I still think about that phone call sometimes. 3 a.m, a woman's voice saying, "Tell my husband to come to the phone." In a way, that call saved me. Without it, I might have gone on for years, maybe decades, never knowing the truth. Claire told me once that she wished Michael had died instead of just being a bigamist. At least then I could have mourned, she said. There would have been good memories. Instead, every memory is tainted now, wondering if he was thinking about you, if he'd rather have been with you. I understood exactly what she meant. Every anniversary, every vacation, every intimate moment I'd shared with Michael, all of it was poisoned by the knowledge that I was never his priority, never his only love. I was just the other wife, the second life, the secret he kept from his real family. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal itself. It was realizing how much of my life had been wasted on a lie. 3 years of living with someone, planning a future, believing in a partnership that didn't really exist. But I refused to let those 3 years define the rest of my life. Michael took enough from me. He doesn't get to take my future too. Share this story if you know someone who needs to hear that life can be rebuilt after betrayal. And let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your engagement helps us reach more people. Today, I'm happy. Really, genuinely happy in a way I never was with Michael, even when I thought things were good. Because real happiness can't be built on lies. It requires truth, honesty, and people who show up as their authentic selves. Michael is still in prison. He'll be released in about 6 months. When he gets out, he'll be a registered offender, his career destroyed, his reputation ruined. He lost everything. Both his families, both his lives, all because he was too selfish to make a choice. Claire is thriving. She got remarried last year to a man who adores her and her children. Emily and Noah are happy. Adjusted kids who know their biological father made mistakes but don't let it define them. And me? I'm living my life openly and honestly. I'm with someone who values me enough to be faithful. I have a career I love. I have friends who supported me through the worst time of my life. I have a future that's mine to build, without lies, without deception, without someone living a double life at my expense. That phone call at 3 a.m. shattered my world. But sometimes things need to be broken before they can be rebuilt into something stronger. I'm stronger now than I ever was with Michael. I'm wiser, more cautious, but also more appreciative of genuine honesty. So thank you, Claire, for making that call. Thank you for having the courage to demand answers. Thank you for being brave enough to confront the truth, even though it destroyed both our worlds. And thank you to everyone watching this story. If you're going through something similar, if you've discovered lies in your own relationship, know that you will survive this. You will rebuild. And someday, you'll look back and realize that the person who betrayed you did you a favor by showing you their true nature before you wasted any more of your life on them. Michael thought he was clever, maintaining 2 lives for 3 years. But he forgot something important. The truth always comes out. Always. And when it does, the person who lied loses everything. I lost a husband who never really existed. Michael lost 2 wives who genuinely loved him, 2 families, his freedom, and his future. I'd say he got the worst end of that deal. Thank you for watching our story. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. And if you have your own story of discovering a partner's double life, we'd love to hear it. You're not alone. Until next time, remember, the truth might hurt, but lies hurt worse. And you deserve someone who shows up authentically, every single day, in every single way.